Hello and welcome to Heartrepreneur TV. I'm your co-host, Velma Gallant. Super excited to be here today and really excited to have you here as well. We have a very special guest and a really interesting topic for today's show that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. So our show title today is Your Empathy is Your Superpower. And I know that's going to be a little bit controversial, and I have to agree. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So our guest today is Shannon Zellner. Shannon is an internationally respected psychic medium, channel, and healer who has triumphantly journeyed through the challenges of decades of trauma. Today, she serves as a beacon of love with a heartfelt passion for empowering empathic women to embrace and use their unique superpowers to help others with confidence and grace while putting themselves first, guilt-free. I love this topic. I am super excited for us to be chatting about that. And welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you, Vilma. I'm excited to be here with you today.
So I think before we get started, one of the really important things that we should be covering is what is an empath? Let's share. Can you share your definition of an empath so that when we continue our conversation, we're all listening with the same ears and speaking with the same focus?
Yeah, and lots of people, when they think of the word empath, they think of the challenges. I like to focus on the benefits, the superpowers of being an empath, which is that ability to feel other people's emotions, to get those nonverbal cues that they have, and it can really foster such amazing relationships when we are empathetic, when we are compassionate, when we are kind and loving, because we feel that within the relationships with other people. You know, yeah, it's just so beautiful, and it's taken me a long time to get to that point myself. to
I
the superpower part.
Okay, so somebody who is an empath is able to feel other people's emotions, and they are able to pick up on those nonverbal cues from others. And I think that's a pretty simple definition, kind of helps us to all be on the same page with that. And I have to agree with you that it is a superpower. I mean, it's just like with anything. There's a light side and a dark side to everything, and we get to choose which we put the most attention on. So you touched on some of that you prefer to focus on how it is our superpower, but let's just touch a little bit on what are some of the challenges of being an empath, of being somebody who has empathy. What are some of the challenges that we face?
Oh, so many. One of the big ones is weak boundaries, not being able to set that boundary and enforce it with other people. As you said in the beginning, like being able to say no to people without feeling guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to put yourself first and say, no, I don't want to do that, but thanks anyway. That's one of the biggest ones. The other big one, of course, is absorbing other people's emotions and energies and letting them drain you and feel drained and burnt out. So many people talk about because I've done probably 20 calls in the past couple of weeks with empathic women, and they don't like to go out in public because and I was this person. Like, I'll tell you a funny story. I was in a networking group for years before I got to embrace this as my superpower. And I would hide in the bathroom before the meetings during the chit chat part because I couldn't take it. It was so overwhelming to me. So that was one of the biggest challenges that empathic people have. And there's also when we have, I want to say, blurred lines between us and them, right? And we don't know where to begin, and they start, and so that codependency comes in. Those are the three big ones, I would say. And there are many, but we only have
right. Yeah, and I think those are really important ones. So weak boundaries, absorbing other people's emotions and energies, which actually drains us, and the blurred lines between us and them, and codependencies. Now, I kind of see um, parallels between all three of these, and them all kind of like filtering up to those weak boundaries. Why do you think we have such weak boundaries?
Generally speaking, and I say all of this too with this disclaimer in that take what resonates and dismiss the rest because we're all unique human beings, right? But generally, it starts in the childhood where we didn't feel seen and heard and valued. If especially as a child, when we don't feel our parents are paying attention to us, or to get love and attention, we have to do things for other people. So we become that people pleaser to get that love and affection, and then that, and it's not even conscious, right?
Mhm.
It's just part of us, and then that just carries forward into the rest of our lives, and we overstep other people's boundaries. Oh, let me help you with that, and then and then we also then allow other people to step over our boundaries, and that's
Mhm.
many empathic people. I focus on women a lot, but that's how we end up in abusive relationships.
Do you think that some of it is because we're able to feel what other people are going through, and we pick up on those things, and we end up having compassion and understanding for where they might be, like, oh, that person had a rough childhood, so therefore, because I have understanding for it, I allow it. Do you think some of that could be connected to this short the lack of boundaries that we experience?
Oh, for sure. Because we have such huge hearts. We want to help everybody. And so we let down the boundary if there's one there at all. And an interesting thing too that my energy medicine mentor told me, that as a kid, because of my dysfunctional childhood and such, my system naturally went out to try to help everybody and heal people and take on their emotions for them. And what ended up happening, Velma, was at some point I believe that everyone else's negativity and negative thoughts and everything, because I am psychic as well, I thought they were mine.
Hmm.
So then that led to decades of depression and anxiety because I thought everyone else's stuff was actually my stuff.
Yeah, well, you know what, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've got a comment here by one of our listeners right now. I believe we are all empaths, just at different levels, and I that makes sense to me. And when we're speaking about one of the things that you said earlier was not being seen and heard, and doing things to get that attention, doing that people pleasing, those absolutely are the beliefs that stem around our self-esteem and our self-worth. And I know you do a lot of work with your clients around that. Now I forgot where I was going with this. um, Self-esteem and self-worth. Well, when we're not seen and we're not heard, that's the experience of our childhood. Then we do end up doing that. Well, in order to be seen and heard, I need to, and that might be doing those kind of things. That might be, that's where I was going. When you said that you experienced where you did a lot of the healing and stuff like that for them, because, and I would imagine, and I don't know your personal experience, but if I were to interpret it through my own, it would be, if they're healthy, then I'll be seen and heard,
Mhm.
right? So there's so many ways that we can create that experience, or that we do kind of create that experience, not intentionally, because as a child, of course, you don't make those decisions that way, right? Or like this. I'm a closet empath. I work hard to ignore it, but it doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, and I agree with Regina too that we all have that capability, that inherent capability, or whatever we want to call it, a characteristic of being an empath, but because of childhood also, like, we shut that down because it's too painful. So everyone's
Mhm.
experience is different. So like she said, it's all, we're all at different levels of it, and where we are either stuck in the challenge part, or we've transcended it and now are using it as our superpower. And that is when more and more people, this is my opinion, e- especially women, when we begin to heal from all the things that cause us to be in the challenge part of being an empath, the world is going to change drastically, because
Mm.
we will be in our power. We will be in collaboration and supportive and being cheerleaders and loving and kind and all these things, and we will be the leaders to the new age, or whatever one wants to refer to it as. So
Mhm.
very exciting times that I'm seeing, as more and more women are wanting to rise above these challenges, really recognizing it and wanting to be done with it. Especially if they're middle aged, in our generation, it's like, oh my gosh, I have been taking care of people for 40 years. When do I get to take care of me? How can I change this?
Well, and I think that's really important. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier was not being able to discern what's mine and what's someone else's. And I know for myself, once I started asking myself that question, is this mine? Instead of just automatically assuming and carrying on as if, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand that I was feeling other people's stuff. Um, Being able to ask that question, is this mine?
It's powerful.
Very, very powerful, made a huge difference, because then I could make a decision. Once I understood that's not mine, I could make a decision. And sometimes that's disconnecting. What are some things that someone can do to take care of themselves once they start noticing that some of those feelings aren't theirs, for example?
Yeah, I want to add to that question that you asked, because that's one that my mentor had taught me too. The other one that I ask when I'm having these thoughts and such is that true? Because those
Mm.
questions go together, right? Is it mine and is it true? And that, because I mean, I had a huge ego mind, overthinker and such. So I really, it was such a great pattern disruptor, a thought disruptor, those two questions. Um, so I totally digressed. So it can, depending on where a person is on their journey, right? It can take a lot of, as it did with me, a lot of inner healing work to be able to even ask those questions, to even be able to recognize that I'm having these thoughts. That took me a long time to recognize that I was not my thoughts, that I was having thoughts. And then when you get to that point, and then you start to address the root causes of why you're having these challenges. Because if you don't get to the root cause, you're just slapping band-aids on stuff, and you're just going to be on
Mhm.
a roller coaster ride and going back to old behaviors and beating yourself up. You have to get to the root cause of why you are struggling with whatever it is you're struggling with. I hope that answered the question.
It did, and one of our watchers had a comment about it. Embrace the gift, and magic will happen. And I would have to agree. Now we have one of the comments that we have. I think will trigger a really good conversation. So I think I'm going to share that one. Uh, so I have to admit, I'm scared to use it as a superpower because it can get out of hand. I don't have empathic boundaries. So not only do we have issues with boundaries using it as a superpower, and before we actually understand that we have it, we can have short boundaries or none. Um, so how do we support ourselves with um, the healthy expression of our empathy? I think I'm going to use that word deliberately, because I don't know that we need to have empathic boundaries. I think it's having a healthy expression of our empathy. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your thoughts between what Regina shared and what I just shared.
Yeah, it's and I love the way you phrased it too. Is and the boundaries part. I mean, if it's like anything that you are desiring to change, it's baby steps. It's
Mm.
it's practice. It's like it's a muscle. It's something that you just continue to practice again and again and again. And if you do something and oh, you still feel yucky, okay, well, I'm going to do this. And it's just baby steps and not beating yourself up. And again, it's getting to energy healing. That's my my jam. And it completely transformed my life. Then it gets easier to do it, and so it's not as much of a struggle to set it because you've healed the reasons of why you can't.
Right. Okay. Oh, okay. So she's out a little bit of clarity here. She says, when I connect with others, it sucks my energy dry. So do I need to be careful? I am an introvert.
Yeah. So one of the things that I do is I set an energetic boundary every day, and actually multiple times a day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When I get up, before I go to bed, when I have meetings and interviews and such, I have a process where I set an energetic boundary so that, and I set it far out. Like if you just set your boundary right here, well, once they're right here, it's hard to push them away, right? So
Okay.
I set an intention, energetic boundary so that anything that is not mine and that's not from love is deflected. It's deflected. It's transmuted to love. It's returned to the sender. And for people who have not done that before, it might sound really weird, but it works. And I have a process. I have an audio that I recorded for people so that they can do that. And for me, it has made a world of a difference because then you're not absorbing their stuff. You're not feeling drained after interactions with people. You feel empowered to leave the house or to have meetings with people and not, I'm putting in air quotes, but fear interacting with people because afterwards, oh, I'm just going to need like 5 hours to myself. So.
Right. I really like that. I really like that. And it's triggered a few memories for me. So being clear in our intention before we even go out in the day, being clear of our intention before we go into a meeting, for example, that kind of thing. And I like that you're saying that making it a decent sized energetic boundary. Anything that's not mine and not from love is deflected, transmuted. I really like all of that. I know when I played, so I did an angel therapy practitioner course years and years and years ago. And one of the things that she mentioned was a pink bubble allows you to still feel without taking it on. So I've done that. I've played with having a bit of fun with what my boundary looks like. I have intentionally gone out into the world in a white Power Ranger suit. Energetically speaking, I was not wearing it out in the world, energetically speaking, but I've had a bit of fun with it as well.
Love that. Your Wonder Woman costume or whatever. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Got my bands on, right? So it makes it. I really love that you shared that because I think too we can personalize those boundaries and personalize those bubbles to fit for us. I've gone out days with sparkle bubbles on, right? Like I've played with it
Love it.
in the last number of years. I didn't have any of these things previously. And so, I personally did experience a lot of lack of boundaries, a lot of codependence, a lot of challenging relationships, and putting other people before myself over the years. So, okay. So we've talked about absorbing other people's emotions. Thank you, Regina, for bringing that up. She did used to use put a bubble up, but she stopped doing it for some reason. That's why it's called a practice. Because we always get the opportunity to pick these things back up again when we're reminded. So
yeah. Yeah.
So, okay.
Go ahead.
Um, let's talk just a little bit about codependency, because you've mentioned it, I've mentioned it a couple of times, and you were talking about the blurred lines between us and them, and that codependency. And I have a feeling that kind of connects to your experience of a child of doing the energy healing with people automatically. It was obviously a gift of yours right from the outset.
Yeah.
And that sounds to me like a bit of a blurred line between them and me. What are your thoughts, and what do you really want to share about codependency?
That's interesting. That one's a bit of a challenge for me, so I'm gonna have to look at that later. But yeah, I had my first two marriages were abusive, and I really struggled with because I'm part of it being the empathic nature is again like that feeling of responsibility, number one, that their emotions were somehow my responsibility. Thank you for my guidance, for giving me the words. Other people's emotions and problems were my responsibility. This is choking me up to fix. And so I didn't know what were at times like, was this their emotion? Was this my emotion? And it was just messed up. And come back to my brain. Um, yeah, go ahead.
I really like what you shared about having this experience of feeling the responsibility to fix. And I think at the same time, when you say, is it mine? Part of it can be, it's my responsibility to fix because I've discerned, because I think it's mine. Even when it isn't, right? So we do take on that responsibility. And I love that. It brings me back to what you shared about, is this mine and is it true? Because if it's not mine, then it's not my responsibility. Like, I can support if someone asks for that support, but it's not my responsibility to jump in and do it. And that reminds me of parenting, right? And you were talking about leading through empathy, and parenting is a leadership role. If my child asks for help, I will step in and help, but I can't fix things for him, because if I do, he will never learn.
Exactly. Yeah.
So how can these people ever take responsibility for their lives, grow beyond some of the challenges that they're experiencing, if they're not taking on their own responsibilities? So that kind and loving thing to do is to give them the space to do that.
Yeah. And it's hard when especially from that parental perspective, when we don't want to see our children suffer. We want to step in, but like you said, I have lots of stories about that. Lots of stories about my kids. But yeah, and it's hard, but we have to let them have their own journey. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, Vilma, because such a huge part of the work that I'm doing, like it seems to be like the bulk of it at this point is generational trauma. And right. And so not only do we learn these behaviors from our parents, we are genetically wired. It's passed on through our DNA. And that's why you see these patterns within families of this, especially the codependency thing, where they're just always, I won't go on. I have someone in mind, but that need to always fix each other and help each other and give each other advice and boss each other around. And it's like, no, let everyone live their own life. And it just goes on and on and on until someone says, wait a minute, this isn't healthy. And this doesn't bring me joy. This doesn't make me feel good. Let's reevaluate this and see what can be changed. And I see in the past couple of weeks in so many sessions, this savior complex that is within us, where we just have this even unconscious at some point, and then finally it becomes conscious with people, but need to fix other people's problems because we feel their pain. And so if we fix their problems, then we don't feel pain anymore.
So if we fix it, we won't feel it.
Yep. And so we keep crossing their boundaries by trying to fix their problems so that we don't feel their pain anymore. That's a huge one. Whew, wow. I'm feeling that.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense, because a child, an empathic child, is going to feel that, and they may process it as, because they don't have the wisdom yet, if I fix it, I won't feel it, and that relieves their pain. And then that also comes to, the not being seen and heard. In order for me to feel love, they have to stop hurting, because if they stop hurting, then they will love me. So there's a lot of ways that can twist around. And the generational trauma, I think, is a really important one to look at. I know that there's a lot of generational stuff that goes on within my family, and the way that I have been processing it more recently is, as I continue to heal myself and strengthen myself, I'm changing my DNA, and I'm changing that trauma going down into the following generations. So in order to be responsible for those who are not here yet, I need to be responsible for me.
And you can also, exactly, you can also help heal those who've passed on, the ancestry as well. Lots of stories, and it's amazing. It's amazing that we can heal the lineage backwards and forwards on a soul level. And that's why I love the work that I do, because it's, when we are doing our inner healing work, it's not just about our physical being or just our soul, it's everyone we're connected with. So it's just amazing.
This is really good. I know we're getting up to the end of our time, but this brought up something really interesting. Generational beliefs are some of the toughest to remove. You have to dig deep and get past the idea that you're dishonoring elders if you stop believing what they believed. I think that is a really great observation. How do we flip that switch when it comes to dishonoring versus healing?
Yeah, that's part mindset, of course. But it's really choice. If you choose to do the inner healing work, you will, I don't know how to explain it, honestly. You won't have that belief anymore. It will go away.
Ooh.
Because what I know is our ancestors are so grateful for the healing work that we're doing. They're not going to be offended if you have a new belief. They're going to welcome it and honor you and applaud you. Sorry.
Oh, I love that. No, I love that. I really love that. I know in my healing journey, some of the awarenesses that I came up with, that I processed, was maybe someone's human didn't take care of me, but their soul absolutely did, because I gained the opportunity to heal through those experiences. Oh, this was good. Thanks for that, Regina. Just got a visual of a belief floating away from me. I love it. Oh, I felt that.
I love that, because that is one of the visualizations I give people about beliefs, is put it in a bubble and just watch it. Bye-bye. See you later. Thank you, Regina.
I love that. Thank you very much. Okay. So we've covered a lot of really interesting things here, especially when it comes to, like, all of it touched on boundaries. All of it touched on emotions and energies, whether we're absorbing them or allowing them, right? Because when we put up those bubbles around us, we're allowing other people to be exactly where they are. So there's so much that we covered.
Wow.
I want to make sure that our listeners and watchers, Heartpreneur TV, get the opportunity to connect with you. And so I'm going to share your website here. So you want to connect with Shannon, you want to connect with Shannon, you can go to our website at thelightvessel.com. It's up on the screen for you. And for those of you inside of the group, Shannon will go in and put the link in there for you once we're done. So you'll have access to that. Shannon is part of our community here. So come on over to Heartrepreneurs with Terry Levine. Join the community. You're going to hang out with some really amazing heart-based business owners like Shannon, like myself, like Terry and Regina. And we'd love to have you. Shannon, thank you so much for coming and sharing your gifts with us and sharing some of your wisdom. I know I got value. I got a lot of personal validation out of this as well. And I'm really grateful for your time.
I am so honored. Thank you. It was a beautiful conversation. And I'm so excited for anyone who watches this to have their own little aha moments like Regina did. Like, oh, I just saw a belief floating away. It's magical. Thank you.
Love that. And make sure that you throw it in the comments, whether it's on YouTube or here over in Heartrepreneurs with Terry Levine. We'd love to hear what you got out of our time today. And yeah, Shannon's on social media. I know she's on Facebook and Instagram because we're connected.
Yep.
So looking forward to playing with you some more, Shannon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Velma. Appreciate it.